I'm Maria of Historical Belle. Thanks for stopping by my sewing room today. Today I'm going to show you how I made this Outlander jacket for my husband because we are going to be attending an Outlander themed event, which I'm also putting on. It's a whole thing. This is just one video in this series about making Rodger and Brianna's Outlander wedding costumes from season 5 of the TV show Outlander. Now, of course, can I follow a pattern to save my life? Probably not. So I will be showing you how I made this pattern also with the modifications that I did.
For this project, I will be using McCall's costume pattern M7762, which is licensed from the Outlander series. This pattern came out in 2018 and has since been discontinued, but you can still find it on Amazon and Etsy and eBay and some other resale places. As for the fabric, I will be using a blue linen, which I got on sale at Joann's, and there was also a pattern sale at Joann's, so you know I had to look at that. And I found this other McCall's pattern, which was a vintage 1980s one, which is super cute. My husband came with me because this is an outfit for him, and I wanted to make sure that he liked the fabric. And we ended up finding him a mushroom solar paneled light that you put outside, and now it's his new favorite thing, and it's super fun. Okay, but now back to the project. Once I got the linen home, it was time to process it. You don't want to work with linen until you have, washed it. And you don't want to wash it unless you have bound the edges somehow. Otherwise, it will fray terribly. So I go ahead and I just serge my cut ends and then take it to the washing machine, throw it in there. I like to add a little bit of detergent because you never know, it might have gotten a little dirty while it was at the store. I go and touch fabric all the time when I'm at fabric stores, so why not just, add a little detergent, wash it, wait, dry it, wait, and then you can actually start your project. But while you're doing all that waiting, go ahead and cut out your pattern that you've never used before, but got because it was on sale, because you only buy patterns when they're on sale. So as I was cutting this pattern out, I realized there were some pattern pieces that I did not necessarily find necessary, which would be piece 7, which is the pleat underlay. We don't need that. Just leave the pleats open. That's how they're supposed to be. And from everything I can find, that would be the historically accurate way to do it. Now, I am also wanted to let you know that I am making view A of this pattern. There is a view A and a view B. View A has less buttons and looks more like the coat that Rodger is wearing in his wedding photos. So that is what we will be going with. And then I also didn't do all of the facings like I'm necessarily supposed to. At least I didn't. I only used them for interfacing and I didn't use them for fabric. So anyway, we'll get to that. I just fully lined everything instead of doing facings. So there's also that. Now that everything is cut out, basically it's just piecing together all of the lining fabric and all of the linen fabric. And also here I am cutting out the facings with interfacings. And then attaching the interfacing to the lining fabric to give it that stiffness, because you want to have a coat look a certain way and hang a certain way, and usually that is a little thicker. For the lining, I just used some cotton bed sheets that I had thrifted. It's my favorite thing for lining. And then of course for the outer fabric we have 100% blue linen from Joann's. So here I am putting the front, side, and back together, and then we're going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side, the front, back, and side together. We're going to go ahead and sew those on the sewing machine, and then we will attach the linen fabric to the lining fabric and have a jacket, which seems pretty swell. But before we attach the linen fabric to the lining fabric, we need to put in our pockets, because otherwise that would be a nightmare to do. So here I am using the pocket guide to pin where the pocket hole is going to need to go on the linen fabric. Our lining fabric has nothing to do with this. It's there. You can sew it up, but you're gonna see the seam. Here I am sewing together my squares, which will be my pockets. This jacket has nice big pockets. big enough to hold my phone and my keys and everything else. but you know, I will not be wearing this, my husband will, but then he will take care of all of my things. So here I am attaching the pocket. And of course I'm doing this all by machine. I don't have time to do it by hand. I always sew myself into a very tight deadline. And I will be doing some finishings by hand, like adding the welt to the pocket here. I'm going to be doing that by hand also. It's just incredibly hard to do with a machine and do it well. Now this is one of the detailings that I will be doing by hand on this jacket. Sewing the welt is basically kind of just sewing the pocket together so it doesn't gape open super weird once you actually put heavy things in your pocket. To attach this welt to the pocket, I am just using a simple running stitch. After attaching interfacing to the flap of the pocket and sewing the right and front sides together, I'm then attaching the pocket flap right above where I attached the welt. This is a very nice pocket flap. I like how it has kind of these little scalloped edges, and I'm using a back stitch to secure this pocket flap because that is a very strong and sturdy stitch, and the pocket flap is going to get a lot of use. Now it is time to attach the linen fabric, the outer fabric, to the lining fabric. To do that, I am just going to pin all around the edges, leaving the back flaps open, and I will take care of those later because that is where I'm going to turn the jacket right side out. And I'm going to sew that on my sewing machine. Once that is done, I'm going to go ahead and attach the shoulders, so the front to the back, making my little armholes there, and suddenly, once I complete these 2 short seams, it's ready to wear! It's time to try on the jacket!
Here we go!
That exciting point in a project's life where it actually can be worn.
Look, I have clothes on.
Yay! Very good. Very good. Alright, let's see those back pleats, because this is where I started improvising a little bit. So technically the pattern says there was like this little triangle point that wanted to fill in back here. And then these were also, it wasn't going to actually have like slits. But what if you have a sword, my dear?
In
Where
case.
does the sword go? That's why we need these little back pleats. At least one of the reasons. So I also looked through my historically accurate books of like, how does this happen? And I didn't see that any of them were actually like together for the most part. So I figured this was a little bit more historically accurate. I mean, we're still going off an Outlander pattern, but
What can you do?
we're just trying. Also, I said to do a pleat, like a tuck in the front here, but I did not, so it's just straight open because I've never seen like a pleat in the front of a men's jacket from this time period in my life. Show us your pockets.
It has pockets.
It does have pockets. It's very large pockets.
They fit my whole hand.
Big enough to fit my phone in.
Yes, and my phone and keys,
Cool.
and your all keys and wallet
Yeah.
and everything.
Nice. Alright. It is a little big, but also you don't have like your other 3 layers on, so it'll be okay. You can grow into it. Now it was time to turn my attention to the sleeves. The coat sleeves seemed like they were going to be pretty easy. They were just 2 pieces, a regular 2-piece coat sleeve. 18th century outfits are a little harder because you have to get the pleating just right. But the cuffs, these cuffs were a whole nother level. They were super cool, but they were very time consuming and a little tedious because of the amount of buttonholes that you needed to sew, and then buttons that you needed to sew to the right place on the sleeve so that the cuff had this really cool button studded effect. But it was a little tedious. So to start this, I went ahead and I got the cuffs sewn together, and then I went ahead and I sewed the sleeves together, and of course the sleeve linings. To put the sleeve and sleeve lining together, I had to fold it in just the right way because I wanted to have the cuff sandwiched between the two so you didn't see that seam that was holding it together, and then rounded it out to make it all right. The buttons that I'm using are from Burnley and Trowbridge. Burnley and Trowbridge is a absolutely wonderful historical sewing vendor, and I'll link them down below in case you would like to check them out. But these are nice metal buttons that would be suitable for this time period. I then sewed a whole lot of buttonholes onto the cuff, and I did that before I attached the cuff to the sleeve because it was going to be so much easier to sew that way. So much easier. And then I just did a little seam of the back of the cuff, and once it was righted right side out, you weren't going to notice. It'll be fine. And then went ahead and I set the sleeve into the armhole, and then I just did a little pleat in the back because I had some excess fabric.
Yay, it has sleeves!
Look at those sleeves.
With cuffs and everything. If I may say so, I think it looks pretty good.
Feels good. Oh yeah.
Oh, this is doing well.
Hello, lady.
Hello.
I feel like I'm ready to party.
Yeah.
Get married.
Are the cuffs like perfect length?
Look at that. Right down the
I'm
middle.
amazing.
The best.
Woo! Here now, you'll see on the cuffs, there's actually little buttonholes that I still need to cut open, and then we'll sew buttons like under it, so then you'll have like studded almost like all around your cuffs.
Ooh,
So you'll have buttons there, and then buttonholes will also go on the flaps here.
Mm-hmm.
And then buttons get sewn actually to the bottom, unlike this silly pattern says.
Like under here? Oh,
Yes, so
definitely.
it'll be here so you can button your pockets. So then like no one can like
See.
get into them.
Very good.
Yes, and then I'm going to do some hand stitching finishing in the back. I'm going to do a hand stitch thing here in the collar, because I'm trying to be slightly more accurate.
It's going with the main.
I will point out a flaw I did. This little band here, the welt pocket, is a little bit too long.
Didn't even notice.
Okay, I don't think it's really noticeable. And then I just need to put like a million buttonholes down the front.
So many.
Yeah, a lot of buttonholes.
So many.
But it'll be okay. I think the length looks good. Right at the knee.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have black boots to wear?
Yes.
Okay. Like tall boots?
Yes.
Okay, so you'll end up wearing those with all of this.
Good.
I have a feeling that I might be able to like make something else by Saturday. It's only Tuesday night. Maybe I can make more parts of this. It'll be great.
I love you.
The jacket is almost done, so it's time to do all of those nice little finishing touches. Remember how I said I just left the back open and then I would go back to that later? Well, it's later now and I'm going back to that. So to finish the back flaps, I just turned the edges in on themselves so that they were all nice and finished, nice little sandwich there. And then I just did a nice little running stitch up the back to finish them off. Now I'm using the guide to mark where I need all my buttonholes to be, which there's going to be a lot of buttons. And you have to then sew all those buttons on by hands. And good gracious, no, I am not going to sew all these buttonholes by hand like they would have been in the 18th century. I'm going to use my machine. Yes, indeed. I use my buttonhole attachment to indeed create all of those buttonholes for my buttons, and I'm still using all of those lovely buttons from Burnley and Trowbridge, and now Lucky's going to help me sew them on. Yes, you are. Well, actually, no, she just has 2 left paws and can't really sew. She doesn't have opposable thumbs. So my husband, because this is a jacket for him after all, was so wonderful to help me sew on buttons because I did not have time to do that all by myself. Now, because I did my linings and finishings and facings different than the pattern said, my neck lining, the neck of the garment didn't quite look super finished. So I went to some of my historical costuming books and I saw that to finish off a jacket in this time period, there would usually be like a little band around the neck that would be the collar, because this jacket's probably from the 1760s, which is different than my dress for Brianna, which is 1780s, but it's Outlander. It is vaguely late 1800s, and that's close enough for the TV show, right? So I went ahead and I made a band using just a couple inches of fabric, and then I hand sewed that onto the neck. And I'm using a whip stitch to attach it first, then I'm bending it over, tucking in the edges, and then I am using a running stitch. Here's a little video of a preview of the ball so that you can get an idea of what our outfits look like all put together, and I hope you will join me next time, as I will be uploading a vlog all about the ball, and I'm very excited for you to get to see it. Thanks so much for coming on my sewing adventures, and I would like to especially thank members of the Historical Belle Society, who are my Patreon members, for their support to create videos like this. The description box.